Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning and welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Bill Allen. I'm sitting in for Winston Chester this morning, and we got a great show lined up. A couple of great guests that I usually have on with me with lots to talk about what's going on in the Bay. But first, let's look at our weather brought to you by Haney Technical Center. The high today is 79, November the 12th, and it's 79 degrees. So, Chamber of Commerce weather. Low tonight is 52 and a 0% chance of rain. Now the wind forecast, we've got it forecasted at northeast at 5. Most of the time you can add 10 to that and it'll probably be close to being right. But northeast at 5 is the forecast, so still not too bad. Let's take a look at our river readings, which are in great shape. We'll start with Apalachicola. It's at 3.3 feet and really holding steady through the weekend. I know there's a lot of fish being caught down there. I've gotten reports of brim and bass as well, so it's a great time and great weather to be down there working the river. So over at Choctawhatchee at Caryville is 4 feet, and it's falling a little bit towards the weekend. So another great opportunity to get out in this great weather and do a little fishing. So let's go ahead and take our first break. I want to bring in our special guest, and we'll see you in just a minute. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here with us. I've got two familiar faces, two of my favorite guys. And guides is Captain Matt Smith.
Good morning, Bill.
And Captain Justin Lee. How you guys doing?
Good, good. Glad
These
to be here.
guys work together through PanamaCityInshore.com. Tremendous, grown up on this bay. I've probably said it before. And just constantly fishing. Great resource for fishing here. And speaking of that, what's going on? Let's talk about what's happening right now in the bay.
Cooling off.
Yeah.
By the day.
We're moving into our fall
Thank
pattern.
goodness.
And after a long, rainy, wet summer, I feel this is some nice, well-deserved weather. And the water's cleared up. Fish are starting to get on the move now. And it's really been good. We've been catching really the redfish, flounder, both been really good.
Yeah. Basically, have you found them starting to move yet, or are you still in the same places?
No, they're moving. They're moving, and a lot of it has to do with the weather. We're starting to get a few cool fronts, and sometimes your consistency of your fishing is based on the kind of correlates directly with the weather. So
That's true.
That's what we're working with.
That's true. Trout bite right now, pretty solid.
The trout bite has been good, especially artificial top waters. Been really good. And,
which really, the trout, to me, I like to fish them like we were talking about earlier, once it gets real good and cold.
Oh, yeah.
We are still having that top water bite right now on the flats, but give it another month or two, and hopefully they'll be starting to look for a deep hole to school up in, and that can be a lot of fun.
We say that, give it another month or two. It's mid-November.
Supposed to be.
It's going to be 79 today. This is killing my wintertime fishing.
We got some more cold. They say the coldest weather on the way. So
That's right. Yep, we're about to drop off. So, hey, enjoy it while it's still here. You won't hear me complain about 70s. That's some nice fishing weather.
Well, I'll complain a little bit because I really love it. I've said it before, when you're freezing to death, that's a good time to catch trout, So right now, pretty much the pattern is still the same. You guys finding redfish on the flats, trout maybe migrating a little bit towards the creeks and things.
Yeah, and the redfish are getting shallow right now. Fish real shallow. We've seen lots of fish starting to tail, backs out of the water, really moving up.
Beautiful
it seems like no matter how shallow your boat will get, they find a way to get shallower than you can. I think I keep trying to get a lighter, smaller skiff to get up to them. I think we'll get a hovercraft next.
Yeah, it's amazing how they
somehow
figure the range of your rod and the depth of your boat to be able to get out from you. But so there's still plenty of bait in the bay now?
It's getting a little scarce.
Yeah,
the
bait is definitely moving out. Starting to see a lot of school and feeding activity around the pass. Not as much as normally, and like we were saying, we hadn't had a lot of cold yet, so maybe after this next big front, it'll kind of get the normally, the bonitas would be foaming the surface at the pass and all that, and just really hadn't seen them every once in a while, but not real consistent yet. So I think there's still a lot of bait in the bay, but it is definitely on its way out. And the flounders are starting to move out there with it too. They kind of follow that bait.
Yeah, we were out Saturday night, and the wind picked up a little later on, but we had a pretty decent decent trip. We came out with some nice flounder. I felt like we could have had more, but when it's blowing straight out of the north and it starts to pick up, it makes it very difficult where you can get to. But going back about 3 weeks or so, we went out. And, you hear some of those early reports. There's always one guy that goes out and gets the limit. Yeah. And, we go out, and I think we saw one all night.
Yeah.
And we went to, near the pass and some of those haunts that we go to on a regular basis. 3 weeks later, we go back to the same place, and now there's flounder there. Yeah. And so they've started to move. They're starting to gather up out there. Do you guys fish for them?
I do. Yeah. We do. Quite a bit.
Matter of fact, 2 or 3 days ago, went out there and caught some redfish, and then they wanted to try to catch something to keep, and we caught them real good on the rod and reel.
You live bait them?
Yeah, live bait. And I tell you, I think a lot of times we like to think of this flounder migration as a perfect migration, where they're all in the bay, and then all of a sudden they're all in the pass, and then all of a sudden they're all offshore.
It's a good debate.
And it's just not. I really don't believe that's how it is. I believe they come from offshore. I believe they come out of the bay. And I know that right now, you can catch them pretty much anywhere because there's some type of migration. But I know I've seen some poling around red fishing in West Bay, and then at the same time you'll catch some while you're trying to grouper fish. So they do. They cover a wide range of water here.
Well, they're here all the time.
That's it.
But the thing I found out about flounder, fishing is, for me, I have to go flounder fish.
Right. Yeah.
I don't need to be distracted by a redfish or a trout or thinking I'm going to do both, because it never works out.
You got to dedicate.
I go and I flounder fish.
Well, you got to keep in contact with the bottom. Yeah. That's to me a big part of it. And you look at when we're normally trout fishing or red fishing, we're fishing something suspended or a top water or something like that, even something suspended. And that flounder, you got to stay slow, stay on the bottom.
And I'll tell you something that I am really learning is these Miradine, these suspended lures have been really hot for the trout here lately. We have really wore out some nice trout. All right, we're going to take our first break here in a second and come back, and we're going to talk about ways that you can fish with this upcoming winter and be the most productive. All right, welcome back. Again, joined by Captains Matt Smith and Justin Leake. And, guys, it's going to get cold eventually. And you're going to stay that way. Don't put your boats up. There's a lot of places you can fish out there. Let's talk about what you can do when it does get cold.
Well, it's probably one of, if not early spring and then fall into winter, my 2 favorite times of the year. A lot of people are surprised to take people on the boat, and they always want to know what your favorite time of the year is, and they're surprised to hear that winter is a lot of times our favorite time, and not necessarily when everybody thinks about being on the water.
Yeah.
But it creates some special opportunities.
It really does.
It really does. But the water temperature's got to get cold and stay cold. That's the main thing. These little fronts that come through are gradually cooling down the water, but not a substantial amount.
That's just what we were talking about earlier. You look at the front, it's supposed to come through tonight or tomorrow.
Right.
And it's going to get down in the 30s real cold. So then that puts you in that, hey man, the trout are going to move up the creeks and really, get moving. But one night of cold like that really is not going to affect the water temperature that much. So to them, they don't look at the forecast. They don't know the difference if it's getting 30 or 40 or what it is. All they know is what the water temperature does. And if it doesn't drop off, then they don't care.
I was getting a little bit worked up about that, and then I look at the long-range forecast, and then after 2 days of cold, the low's going to be 57.
That's right.
So you think at this point, the fish get a little bit confused over what they should be doing and what's actually going on. Because they're going to react to the water temperature.
Without a doubt. A lot of times these little short cold snaps are more of an adverse effect.
That's right. I agree. And the more unstable the weather is and constantly changing, I do believe that consistency is probably one of the most important things as far as weather goes affecting fish. When it changes, it's hot, cold, windy, high pressure, low pressure.
Yep.
It can make it hard.
Definitely.
I think we'll probably get to the upper 60s after this
Yeah.
front coming, and it'll stay there, and then we'll probably need a good solid week of cold to finally kind of make everything kind of settle in. So.
Yeah, they have to have some consistency in the weather to start doing it. So you're going out now. You're starting on the flats, right?
Yeah.
Start on the flats and
Right now we still are.
moving a lot.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of moving and telling people on the boat the other day, just trying to hit the right place at the right time. A lot of things are happening. The bait moving, your weather's changing. Our water conditions are still kind of inconsistent. We've had some places still get kind of muddy and dirty, blown out with the wind, that sort of thing. So you're constantly moving, trying to be at the right place at the right time. Whereas once we do settle into winter, you are more apt to go somewhere and spend some time in the working area over.
Just true.
I tell you, that'd be a good tip of the day. I was just thinking about right there is, don't stick with a plan just because in the past it worked for you.
It's play.
I've pulled down a flat, seen a big school of redfish. We'll fish them that day, whatever. Do real good, and there's just piles of fish. And then I can come back the next day under different conditions, and those fish are not there. They have moved. They've gone deep. They've moved to the other end of the flat. Something's changed. So when, no matter what your past experience was there, it's hard sometimes for us to get over it. But sometimes you just got to get over those fish and move on. Look for something else because it's not the same day. They can.
I laugh.
How many times you heard? Well, we caught them here yesterday. You should have been here yesterday.
Hey,
well, it's not yesterday, so might as well look for what's going to happen that day.
When you have one of those fantastic trips, it doesn't ever leave me.
It's hard to get away from.
I'm going to remember that for years. I'm going to go back and look at it. But, I think what you're saying is really true. Right now, you have to be willing to be mobile.
That's it. Especially with the conditions changing as much as they are right now, from one day to the next.
Yeah.
You need to say, hey, look, all right, I'm going to find what's going to work today.
Well, a lot of times that's what forces that situation, creates an opportunity for you to expand on what you know, where you fish, what you do. But you've got to be willing to, instead of saying, well, I'm going to stick with what I've done in the past, go check other areas, go find something that's more suitable to the conditions. And sometimes it doesn't always work to your advantage, but a lot of times that's how you end up finding areas that you wouldn't have found otherwise.
Absolutely. It's a great time to keep an eye on the bottom machine.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Absolutely.
Find some depressions, find some differences in the bottom. Sometimes, that's all. That's all it takes to do it. But a lot of, I find that I get dictated where I'm going to fish by the wind.
Yep.
Especially when it blows like
battle,
it is.
A 15 knot wind. You've got to, you got to run towards it.
That's it.
So it's and it's, I found it changing. It starts varying from. It's usually about the time I decide to leave and go somewhere else is going to be perfect for that wind. It shifted more to the east, and then it kind of messes it up. Mark and I were out there the other day, and we just got beat to death. Of course, he got that new boat, so we were going.
That's right. You got to test it out.
We got beat to death getting there, but once we got there, we're able to get out of the wind a little bit and in a decent area to fish with some good water. We only caught maybe one or two reds, but these trout are big and they're hungry and
a lot of bait. They're really keying in on the bait.
Yeah, they are really going after it. And like I said, I started learning to fish that Miradine XL, that suspended bait, and I've got 2 or 3 others. But especially in the wind, when you can't go to that top water, it's very difficult to do.
Right.
That's an excellent way to create some flash and some movement.
Yeah, you get the same action, right below the surface.
Are you guys finding that the colors that you're using are changing a little bit now?
The water's cleaning up.
As it cleans up, are you going back?
I go to lighter, more natural colors.
Yep.
Yeah. we were talking earlier. I mean, I like the Strike Kings and the 10X baits, because you can fish them all day.
Yeah.
But it takes me a half a day to get them on the hook.
Trick.
Yeah, what Bill's referring
Y'all
to
need
is
to
those
step up to the plate here a little bit.
All right, the stretchy, the super stretchy soft plastics.
Well, the stretch length to the tail
that are great because the pinfish, chauffeurs, they can't pull the tails off of it. Which I'm sure some lure companies are probably trying to avoid them because they don't sell as many lures. Because those things really, I've fished the same soft plastic all day.
They don't dry out.
But there's two things that I've found work really good. One of them is a Z-Man jig head, and that jig head doesn't have the corkscrew. It has a straight point with a little small metal barbs, not the big lead barbs. But anyways, that jig head is made for those, and it slides right on and holds it perfectly. So that works really well.
You heard it here, folks. I mean, I got to go get one.
All
I'm
right.
not gonna do it.
But most people go, well, I don't want to go buy special jig heads just for that. You can take your normal lead head, jig head that has on the lead itself, on the shank of the hook, has small barbs in the lead.
Yeah.
But you can take that, put a dab of super glue on it, and then just push that thing up nice and firm on that super glue.
Fantastic tip of the day.
On my console, I have a little glove box door. I keep a jar of super glue right there.
All right, we're going to take this quick break and come right back. See you in a minute. All right, welcome back. Let's take a quick look now at our peak fishing times for today. Brought to us by Mark Coward of Edgewater Realty, good buddy of mine and a great fisherman. Congratulations on the new boat, Mark. Peak time today is 6:46 to 8:46 a.m. and tonight 6:16 to 8:16 p.m. Now let's take a look at the tides from Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Greg Brudnicki. 3:24 a.m. this morning was a high with a 12:40 low and then a high of 8:37 tonight. So we're coming into the phase where, it's going to flatten out a little bit, but it's looking real good for the weekend as this tide moves away from us. So you know what? It's not great tides to fish, but if you got a chance to go, it's a great day to fish, right?
That's right.
I had somebody ask me the other day, about the tide. They say, well, is the tide ever high in the morning in the wintertime? And just about no. I mean, as a general rule, and in the summer, your high tide generally in the morning, falls out most of the day, and then for whatever reason, it does kind of reverse. I know our day is shorter. Days are shorter, so.
Boy, they're short.
Yeah, you also notice during the summer and winter, your big tides are on the full moon and the new moon. And generally our neap tide, like today, is on about a half moon. But in the fall and spring, it starts to flip flop. The tide does. So you actually hit these weird times where you got your big tide movement on your half moon. So it's kind of gets confused. So, which we just went through that phase. This kind of lets you know we're getting into our winter time weather now, because now our big tide movement is on our full moons and new moons.
That's right.
And our neap tides now again are kind of on our half moon.
That's true.
So we're on our wintertime tides now.
And what goes with that, a lot of times in the very early morning during the late fall and into the winter, you don't have a lot of tide movement. Sometimes it's later in the morning before you get a movement.
That's
so
right.
it's not always necessarily in the summer months during the heat of the summer. You're always wanting to get a good early start, not necessary this time of year.
Yeah,
which is mighty convenient on a morning when it's 40 degrees. Nobody wants to start at daylight for some reason. So it gives us a nice reason to start later in the morning. Well, we're going to have to wait till 11 o'clock for that tide to start coming in, and that's when we'll start fishing.
Yeah, it's I love to go to Appalachia when it's cold, and we've just had some tremendous winters over there catching big trout. But there's 4 tides over that way, so sometimes you hit it when that. I like to fish it falling.
That's
going
right,
with the wind. Everything's the same, and it's really cold.
It gets cold.
That's a pretty good run over there going that quick.
And the water's probably low then too, isn't it?
Have
you ever got stuck over there running around?
No.
Oh, well, good for you.
Not there. Now, well documented that I got stuck real bad, over at Crooked Island Sound. So That was a Cito moment.
No,
I'll
that's right. I've
never
heard
be
that
without
story.
it. I'll never be without it. But yeah,
It
that boat
happens.
will run in some really shallow water, but it will not run in sand.
Yep.
No.
Very few of them will.
Not too many.
That's it. One good tip. We get a lot of times customers that show up, and generally you can just always count on it being about 10 degrees cooler on the water
that's
than
correct.
it is on land. You're exposed to the elements, the wind, and everything else. Usually you're going to dress well yourself, but you're bringing guests, kids, something like that. Always bring extra clothes, stow them. You can always
right.
take your layers off, but that can be a deal breaker sometimes.
And one great tip too is you stay away from cotton.
Yeah.
Because you get wet, you're going to stay wet.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be cold. Most everything I've got now is some quick
kind of
dry, some
microfiber.
kind of like that. Because even if it's not raining, you're going to get some splashes. All kinds of things that can happen.
Yep.
God
right.
forbid you go in, but stay.
I've always worn microfiber shirts during the summertime, especially to stay cool. But I have started in the wintertime using it as my first layer because it's going to keep your body dry, and when your body stays dry, it's easier to stay warm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It works both ways.
But it's you have to layer. When
right,
it's cold, you can take stuff off when it gets warm. But if you get out there and you get cold, you can get in some dangerous situations. Get too cold. Period. Especially if you get wet.
In a hurry.
Especially if you get wet.
And in Florida, even the layers are important. Don't necessarily put on just a pair of coveralls, and because in Florida it seems like on these cold mornings we might start off in the 40s, but we're going to end in the 70s.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So you're going to want to be able to lighten up the layers towards the middle of the day.
So these trout move in the holes, move into the creeks. You're going to change your techniques now, right?
Yeah.
Bait's not as plentiful.
That's it.
That's right.
Where do you need to be? What do you need to be with?
Need to be in a little bit deeper water. What always appeared obvious to me, or somewhat obvious, once you find fish in a hole, is where those fish are located in the winter is stable water.
That's
a
right.
flat is not stable.
No.
Because your water fluctuating, your temperature fluctuates. You want deeper, more stable water.
Well, guys, we've talked through another show here, and I want to appreciate these guys coming in so much. They bring a wealth of knowledge. You want to learn something about this bay and go fishing, these are the guys to go with. Have a great day. Do something great for somebody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.